This is Townsquare Sunday. If you haven't been to downtown New Bedford lately, you should take a few minutes to visit the park area behind the Customs House in New Bedford. It's normally called Custom House Square, I believe. It is covered with a tinsel-like skynet. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. It's a public art project that's called Silver Current. That was created by a gentleman named Patrick Sheeran, who was overseeing the project, really, and others in New Bedford, is an organization called DATMA. Roger Mandel is the founder and board chair of DATMA, which stands for Design, Art, Technology, Massachusetts. And he joins us this morning to talk about Silver Current and some other events planned in New Bedford. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
For those who don't know, what is DATMA? Let's start there.
DATMA has been founded to bring international exhibitions and programs to New Bedford and to take New Bedford to the world and to show the diverse cultural activities that are here, bringing tourism, enlivening the education programming here in the community, and generally giving people pleasure through the arts and design. But its main emphasis is to show the impact of new technology on art and design on new technology.
Is it only New Bedford? Why New Bedford?
New Bedford has had a rich history of the Industrial Revolution, shall we say. The first one, obviously, whaling, and the second one being textiles and jewelry, furniture, glass, and so on in the late 19th century. Mm-hmm. And the third one that's coming now is the wind energy industrial revolution being brought by Vineyard Wind and some of the other companies. But there's also a long tradition of artists and makers here and designers that we want to showcase as well. So our aim is to push for bringing international shows that augment what's here, but also taking our products to the world.
So, and it's an interesting choice for New Bedford. I understand what the reasons you're suggesting. You have an organization, and this is it a statewide organization, or is it simply focused on New Bedford?
It's pretty much focused on New Bedford and this region, yes.
All right. So how did Silver Current happen? How did that project get underway?
We were looking for a project that would illustrate through the arts the excitement of the new wind energy program. And so we created an umbrella for all of these events that are going on in New Bedford called Summer Wind. And we looked for artists who were not from this region, from someplace else, who had had international reputation that could do something related to wind. And so Patrick Sheeran and his group called Poetic Kinetics were selected because they have done these large-scale programs all over the world. This installation in Custom House Square is like one that was in St. Petersburg, Russia, in the Middle East, in Amsterdam, in Beijing, and also in Los Angeles, and most recently in Lisbon. And we chose them to design something specifically for our area.
And so what is this Skynet made out of? What are the pieces? It looks, from an aerial view, it looks like tinfoil. When you're underneath it, it maybe look like tinfoil, but there's a sound that is very unique.
Well, it's not tinfoil. It's actually a kind of mylar that's reflective on one side. It has this kind of wonderful rainbow effect when the sun hits it. And something like 50,000 of these strips are attached to fishing net. And what's also exciting for us is that this gives you the effect, if you stand underneath it, of being underneath a school of fish that are swimming by in the wind. And it also is captivating the wind, very much like the wind turbine industry is. So it's this wonderful combination of who we are and what we're about to become. But the noise is phenomenal.
And, public art really is in the eye of the beholder. You either like it or you may not like it.
Yes.
For instance, we've had an item in front of the federal building for years and years and years,
Yes.
which has been very controversial. But people now have kind of accepted it. They may not like it greatly, but they accept it. But this is a little different. This moves. It makes noise. It when people, I think, understand the concept as you've explained it, are a little bit more accepting of what the message is here.
It's actually captivating. In fact, even when we were installing it, people would stop by, and I would just walk up to them because they didn't know who I was and say, well, what do you think? And they were so excited about it and were so thrilled by the colors that were being projected by the sun, the noise that it makes standing underneath it. It's quite beautiful. And the other thing I have to say is if there are people who don't like it, it's here only through the 30th of September, so they'll be able to live without it in the future. But they should really come and try and see for themselves.
Yeah, it is area when you watch an aerial photo or watch it from high above. It's really a very attractive kind of thing.
Yes.
It's mesmerizing, but underneath it, it's something else. I mean, there's a real feeling. What did Sharon say was the message of this? What do you think the message of it is? I mean, it's I was reading some information on either a website or a Facebook page, and it talks about the movement of wind and how that's going to be important in New Bedford's future. And you can see by the movement of this material that you can see the wind. You can see the wind and how it moves.
Absolutely, and it's made out of this new material, a new technological development. They designed this not only with handmade sketches, but also with a lot of engineering and a lot of work on very high-tech computers. So again, this sort of fits into DATMA's purpose of bringing high-tech art and design. But it does have this natural feel, and I think people will be captivated by how it relates to nature.
And again, the Silver Current is here till the end of September, and really it's a pleasure, I think, to see public art in New Bedford. A lot of it lately, and it will be emphasized still. Other events coming this summer to emphasize this kind of public art for people to enjoy.
Yes.
Art is not, you don't have to go to an art museum necessarily, although New Bedford has a wonderful art museum, a small art museum that works. But to see art, you can go on the streets of New Bedford and see art.
You can, but I should also point out that as part of Summerwind's program, every museum in our city now has something that relates to wind. The Whaling Museum has just opened a wonderful exhibition of their Dutch and Flemish 17th and 18th century sailing paintings that show storm-tossed seas with these ships in trouble in very heavy weather. They're quite dramatic paintings, and they're wonderful. The Art Museum, the New Bedford Art Museum, has 2 exhibitions that show artists working with wind, and so does the CVPA Gallery at the Star Store for the university. So there are lots of events and exhibitions around. There's the Art Walk along the riverfront, where there are sculptures designed by UMass and Bristol Community College students. There's an exhibition at the zoo by an artist who makes work that is a wind chime, but they're in the shapes of animals and birds and fish. It's fascinating.
And there is another big event coming up, and we're going to talk about that in the second part of this interview. This is Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips, and my guest is Roger Mandel, the founder of DATMA, who oversees public art projects here in the city of New Bedford, some public art projects, including Summer Current, which is actually Silver Current, which is at the Custom House Square Park there in New Bedford, downtown New Bedford. So, needless to say, DATMA has a lot of partners here in New Bedford. You have worked with, joined, been part of a lot of groups who are
indeed we have
helping, meeting, talking about the arts.
We have indeed. I should also mention that there is a great Kite Festival coming on the 27th of July.
Well, that was my next question, but the Summer Winds Kite Festival, which is July 27th at Fort Tabor. Now, we've had some kite festivals in New Bedford, but I don't think we've had any on the scale of this event.
No, this event is bringing kite organizations, kite making and flying organizations from all over New England. And we've partnered with the Guatemalan Kite Group here in New Bedford, who have already been running workshops to help people get ready to fly their own kites. And the 27th will be a gathering at Fort Tabor,
right.
Which is an extraordinarily good place to fly kites, I have to say.
Absolutely. It is a gem. It is a place that, if you've been around here any time at all, and if you've been to Fort Tabor, you know it's a very special place. And you're exactly right. It is a great place to fly kites.
Yes.
So who are the groups that are coming besides locals, besides the Guatemalan group locally? Other groups?
Yes, there are other kite clubs and organizations from all around New England, 6 or 8 of them, who will be flying their own kites, some of which will be probably animated and some of which will be very traditional. I don't actually know the names of each one of them,
Sure.
but I am aware of the people here in New Bedford in that wonderful Guatemalan group.
And what prompted I know you're looking at winds. I know you're emphasizing projects with wind. How did the idea for a kite festival come up? I mean, maybe it's just easy. Maybe
it was one of the first thoughts we had.
Well, there you go.
If you're going to deal with wind, the making kites goes all the way back to China and other parts of the world and centuries ago.
And so here we are. We're coming up on the Summer Winds Kite Festival, July 27th at Fort Tabor. Is this an admission event or is it free?
Totally free.
There you go. What a way to spend an afternoon. Will DATMA's involvement in New Bedford end at the end of the summer, Roger Mandel?
Yes, indeed.
It will.
Yes, indeed. It will not end. We will continue. We're already planning for 2020.
Okay.
I think our theme for 2020 will be light, and we're going to shift from just doing summer programming collaboratively with other arts organizations to becoming more of a year-round organization and having events in the fall and the spring as well as the summer.
Okay. Give us a preview. Anything you can talk about yet?
We're still working on it, and I dare say we can't announce yet.
All right. But we've still got a lot to do this summer, including all the smaller exhibits besides Skynet there, smaller exhibits in places like the zoo, and, of course, the Summer Winds Kite Festival on July 27th at Fort Tabor. Sounds like a winner. Hopefully the weather will hold up that day.
For a full roster of all of the events this summer, go on DATMA.org, DATMA.org, and you'll see a full schedule.
And that's a wonderful thing. You are a founder of this organization. When did that take place?
About 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 years ago. We have a board of trustees. We have an executive director, Lindsay Misch. We have an office in downtown New Bedford. We're still a very young organization and experimenting, but we've had wonderful response from the community so far.
One more question about the Skynet project. Did Patrick work on that alone? Did he have help? I'm sure he had help installing it.
Yes.
That was a big deal. Using fishing nets is a great idea, by the way. That just adds to it. But did he have a lot of help in putting it together?
They did. They created this Skynet with the fishing net and the Mylar strips on it in Los Angeles, where their headquarters are located. They have, I think, 6 or 8 employees. But when they came here, they were already helped by DPI. The city of New Bedford has been wonderfully helpful to us in helping to prepare the park to erect this 45-foot pole that to which the Skynet is attached. And we had interns and others from around the community here that helped us.
And Skynet is up till September 30th here in New Bedford. Again, we want to mention that. So if you haven't been there, just stop by. Go underneath. It's quite an experience. Roger, DATMA Also at your website, people can learn more
Yes.
about your organization as well.
DATMA.org.
All right, very good. Roger Mandel is the founder and chair of the Board of Trustees for DATMA. 2 years old, but already making its mark in New Bedford. Congratulations.
Thank you.
DATMA stands for Design, Art, Technology, Massachusetts. And they are here in New Bedford and are already planning for the summer of 2020. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Stay with us. Town Square Sunday returns in just a moment.